you can engage. I love it when you jump in directly on Zoom, especially when you're willing to come on camera and speak, and I can work with you directly. Of course, this is being live streamed on LinkedIn Live and on YouTube, so I completely understand if you don't jump in and share that way. But I invite you to jump in on Zoom, and even just to listen in, you can always type your questions into the chat. If you are viewing in through YouTube or LinkedIn, type your questions into the comment section, and those will get passed over to me. And I will do my best to answer any questions that you have. So today, the topic that we're looking at is one that is near and dear to me. So my whole reason for getting into coaching was years ago when I had the realization that emotions have been this thing that, for whatever reason, in our development as a species on this planet, it made sense to suppress emotions. It made sense to try to numb them out as a way to integrate deep feelings into things. And I would watch, I always looked at people as they got older, and I would see this thing happen, and I didn't know what it was, but until I got some language around it. But I would notice, like, oh, it seems as people get older, they just, I don't know, I kind of like them less and less and less. And it was like, what happens when people get older? What is this about? And then I saw some things happen that were a contradiction to that. And one of those was my one grandmother, who, it's like, as she got older, I think she got more in touch with her emotions and more expressive and kind of more genuine and authentic. And that inspired me. And I wanted to be more like that. So I started kind of noticing about people, like, what is it that I really am attracted to in people? And then when I was taking an emotional intelligence training, where the curriculum showed that, oh my goodness, like, we have all this training in how to get better at developing certain skills, technical skills, that kind of thing. Have a high IQ. And and then when I learned that, wait a minute, we're spending so much time focused on skills that are important. I'm not trying to poo-poo this stuff, but we haven't, as a society and as a species, really valued aliveness, really valued raw emotions. Now, there's ways that we do that. It's in performers. It's like, oh, we like that when somebody's on stage and they can really convey emotion well. We like it in speakers. Um, there's all kinds of ways that have been acceptable about this. But what about for every single individual, if we started to turn on our emotional intelligence more? If we started to deepen our relationship, each person started to deepen their relationship with their emotions, embracing their core feelings more and more. So this has become something of a zeitgeist, I think, in the world, or at least in the United States, and probably a lot of Europe and some other places, where we're understanding that our emotions and emotional expression is a wonderful thing, is a good thing. It helps leaders. Lots of research has been going on about this. 1999, Daniel Goleman put out an article that was the #1 most looked at article in New York Times for executive leadership, basically saying, look, you can learn technical skills up to a certain point. If you are going to advance as a leader in a company, it means that you're going to have higher levels of emotional intelligence. And then all kinds of people start looking at it and being like, oh, is this something that is just innate? Are people born with higher levels of emotional intelligence, or is it something that can be learned? And good news is it can be learned. So anyone can learn to be more in touch with their emotions. And I have seen this from everyone from my dad, who I did not think earlier in my life would have been somebody that could tap his emotions, to actually see him take training, uh, get coaching, and educate himself and learn how to feel more deeply, and then how to communicate those feelings in an effective way with other people. So I was like, I have strong evidence for me. The fact that my dad is able to do this, it really proves it to me. And I have myself, of course, and I have lots of people that I've coached over the years, and seen a lot of people deepen their connection with their own feelings, and then watch them be more effective leaders in their personal lives and in their careers. Watched people rise up the ranks in whether they have their own business or if they are climbing the corporate ladder, and seeing them increase their effectiveness, increase their pay, increase their general sense of accomplishment, sense of self, knowing that they are the authors of their life, able to influence in meaningful, productive ways. So I say all this to tee up what we're talking about today is how to be an emotionally intelligent leader, how to enhance yourself as an emotionally intelligent leader. Because again, the research is in many years now, that what it really takes to advance as a leader is emotional intelligence. So great. Oh, great. I'm starting to get some questions coming in here. Welcome if you're just joining in here on the Zoom. I'm going to give a quick reiteration of what I said earlier. There's a few ways to participate. Love it when you jump in on Zoom directly. If you want, you can come off mute and we can talk. We can interact that way. This is being live streamed to YouTube and LinkedIn. So if you want to remain anonymous, let me know that. You can type your questions into the chat, or you can type your questions into the comment section. So, okay, the question that came in is helping individuals grow who are sales and sales managers. Okay. Then how does emotional intelligence play out with a sales team? This is a great question. So again, if you have questions, you can type them into the comment section. Those will get sent over to me. I'll do my best to answer them. And any question you have, it doesn't have to be related to emotional intelligence and leadership. You can ask any question. You can ask about your resume. You can ask about working with a team, talk about your relationship with your boss, whatever. Any question career related is fair game. I will probably tie it back to emotional intelligence since that's my expertise. But we got a question on the table about how emotional intelligence helps somebody who's in a leadership position in sales. So a sales manager. So if you're able to give me a little more data, but I'll start off speaking very broadly about this. So sales, if anybody has done any time in sales, I think that you can relate to the ways that it's uncomfortable. Okay, so let's start with the feeling of fear, discomfort, anxiety. Most people are going to feel anxiety if they're picking up a phone and making a sales call. You're doing cold calls, if you're following up with people. And and sometimes you may not feel anxiety. And it might even be good to learn how to feel a little anxiety, because anxiety and the fear response is not something to be rejected or something to get over. It's actually something to learn to be more present with, because it gives high quality data. So our fear response is something that has kept us alive. If we didn't have fear, we would have been eaten by dinosaurs and saber-toothed tigers, and we would have been murdered by other people back in the day when 1 in 8 males was died by murder. So, we've come by our fear response, honestly, and it's not a matter of suppressing it. It's a matter of using our fear response. And so in a sales environment, understanding that, and so maybe as a sales manager, you don't want to say to your team like, oh, get over it, or just make the dials, or like that's going to work for a small percentage of your sales team. There are those types. So you know what, let's go ahead and drop in the chat the personality assessment, Connect and Thrive. This is a little thing I put together to help people understand their own personality style, and then also understand other people's personality styles. It's a lens to look at yourself as a leader through. Okay, so you're going to have people on your sales team who you can be more direct with, like that. Say like, you know what, you just need to do it. Go out, get it. That's going to work for some people. So when you can identify that person, use that approach. There's going to be other people where it's going to be more effective for you to say things like, oh yeah, I get it. So you're feeling anxious about reaching out to this many people. Totally. When I started doing this is how I felt with about that. These are some of the things that I did. I would, and I have all kinds of little tricks for this. I'm in sales. I have my own business. So I'm doing sales calls as part of what I do. And there's all sorts of things I do that help me regulate my fear response so that I can be more effective with it. Share my one favorite one is this one. It's a acupressure point right there on the base of your thumbnail where that white part is, that hits the central nervous system. When I breathe in while pressing on it, it soothes me. It's literally like giving myself a hug from the inside out. It's fantastic. So I can soothe myself while I'm feeling that fear response. So it's okay. Yep, what I'm doing is a little outside of my comfort zone, and that's okay. And so then I can do that if I'm feeling a lot of anxiety about something, make the phone call. But again, because I'm not trying to turn off the fear. If I turn off the fear, I can be obtuse. I can be out of touch with whoever I'm talking to. I just want to be regulating that fear response. And so now, as I'm reaching out and I'm talking to somebody, I now have my fear on my side. And my fear is going to alert me to where that other person is at. So I'm in coaching. So I'm looking at what are other people's concerns. Big concern a lot of people have is that they're not able to do what they want to do, that they're not able to be effective. That it's like, hey, I want this thing. I want to go for this position. I want to in my company. I want to make this move, or I want to go over to another company. I'm concerned that either I can't handle it, that I don't have all the skills, or that I know I can, but how do I communicate that I can? That's a big one. And so actually learning to embrace that fear in rapport with somebody in an interview and using it to say, I have, some thoughts about this part of this position, and using that anxiety as a way to ask questions about what the position is instead of trying to pretend like you have it all handled and trying to act confident. Trying to act confident will often create gaps, or it'll kind of look like to the person who's interviewing you like, yeah, this person's trying to act confident and I don't really believe them. But if you can use that anxiety in a more authentic way, say, you know what, I have concerns about this. Tell me more about this aspect of the position. Right there, you're using that anxiety in an effective way. So again, for a sales manager, I hope what I'm saying is helpful to you. You can type into the comments if that's help, if what we're talking about here is helping, or if there's something more specific you're wanting. Um, with a sales manager, for you to be successful, I would say number one, understand who you're talking to, develop the relationships with your team so that you're able to speak their language. That's going to help give them the security that you're on their side. And that's going to have them take more meaningful risks in the sales calls they're having. And now we can always go back to numero uno, yourself. So yourself as a sales manager. As a leader, it's really important that you walk the talk. So it's going to be more inspiring to me if I'm on your team. It's helpful for me to see you really going for it. So what are the bigger clients that you're working on? Or what's the challenge that you have? And how are you sharing that with me? Because if you're inviting me onto your team and I see that you're on your edge and you're hungry and you're going for bigger things in your career development, that's inspiring to me. I want to follow somebody like that. I want to be like you. So we can take that back again for emotional intelligence and how to be an effective leader on a sales team, how to be an effective sales manager using emotional intelligence. Great thing to do is you're focusing on how you're doing, how you're going for it, and how that can inspire. So then you might share those stories. You might say, yeah, I was totally afraid of this call I was making or of going into this meeting with this level of people that I hadn't been with yet. So you sharing your feelings will invite your team to be more okay with the feelings that they're having. I've shared this story in the past. I'll share it again right now. This is not a sales team. This is an IT team. But I would say it has even more credibility coming from an IT team because they're historically very known for not being not showing their emotions much. So the leader on an IT team came out of a meeting. He'd been doing work with me around expressing his feelings, and he just said, "I'm angry." His whole team was like, "Uh-oh." But he just stuck with it. He didn't say anything else. And then his team started speaking up, said, "Yep, you know what? I'm upset too. That meeting with our client didn't go well. They lied to us. They lied by omission. They didn't share how bad things were, so we couldn't really help them." Okay. And then the whole team was way more spontaneous, way more creative, came up with solutions, came up with a plan to tease higher quality information out of their client sooner so that they could serve them better. And all this was done in under an hour. And my client said, George, in the past, I would have spent an hour myself just talking and trying to get my team to do stuff. The fact that all I did was say, I'm angry, and they picked up the ball and ran with it and like created stuff that now they're handling and they're having way more fun. So I know it's different than a sales management position, but hopefully that story can help you see some ways that as a manager with your sales team, that you could express your genuine feeling about something. Let's say that if you're on a sales team and you're leading them and you're in competition with other teams, and it's like a healthy competition, like letting your team know that you want to win and that you are like afraid that you're not, or that you're, you know, like if you feel hurt that you didn't get your team and that your team didn't perform as well as you could have, that can be a big one. Especially, again, take a look at that link for the personality stylers. If you, I'm an energizer cooperator, and if somebody in leadership tells me that their feelings are hurt, that they're like, oh, I'm so hurt we didn't hit our goal, like that lights me up. And I'm like, oh no, we're not going to lose out next time. I'm going to, like, that motivates me. So even if it's something that is outside of your comfort zone, and you might be kind of like, I don't know why that would motivate, but consider that there's other people who have other personality styles and speak other personality languages. And so you sharing your emotions vulnerably while you're walking the talk can be one of the most effective things you can do as an emotionally intelligent leader. Okay, so great. Thank you for that question. Thanks for kicking us off that way. I want to reiterate to anybody who's just joining in, this is Career Lab Wednesday. I'm your host, George Miller, and I take all questions career related. You don't have to ask a question about leadership and emotional intelligence. If that's not the thing that's most on your heart, don't worry about it. I will probably tie it back to emotional intelligence. And sometimes, if not, sometimes you have a question about LinkedIn or resumes, can answer a lot of those. Or people who are listening in often have great advice on how to use some of these tools that we have available to us now. So I want to check in and see if there's any questions or any updates that anybody has. Anybody who's joined in here on Zoom, or anybody watching in through YouTube or LinkedIn, seeing if you have any questions or anything you want to update me on. You can go ahead and type it into the chat or just come off mute and let me know. And feel free to interrupt me at any time. So if I'm talking and something sparks your interest or you have a question about it, come off mute or type into the chat section any question that you have. So I was listening to a podcast. One of my John the Baptist of ice water is Wim Hof. So many of you probably know who he is. A guy who has climbed Mount Everest in his shorts and who has spent an hour in ice water and has been injected with a virus and was able to not show symptoms of being sick by simply breathing, doing a certain kind of breath work. So anyway, this guy, huge fan of him. Anyway, so he was on a podcast, and he's talking about the purpose of going into ice water. Like, why do this? Also, the purpose of breath work. Why do this? Why do this? And I loved what he said, because he says that human beings over time we have become more and more comfortable and we're suppressing our feelings. We're suppressing our innate response to things. And at the beginning of today, I was talking about how emotions are so important. They literally are, like, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have a fear response, if we didn't have a hurt response, if we didn't feel angry about stuff, if we didn't feel sad about stuff, and if we didn't feel joyful about stuff, we wouldn't be here. So as Wim Hof is talking about this, he says, yeah, the cool thing about ice water is that when you go into ice water, you feel afraid, you feel hurt, you feel sad, you feel angry, and you feel joyful. It just automatically kicks the body into a response, into having all of these emotions happening. And I've been doing this now for several years, and I hadn't thought of it like that. It's like, that's true. It really does. It's like a magic button that will automatically flood my system with a whole bunch of emotions. Now, we're going to take that into leadership. So that's great. I can go do that in an ice bath or whatever. But now, how do I translate this into expressing with people? Because that's a big jump. Because when it's just me in an ice bath, it's a pretty controlled environment. Even though I'm scared and I'll be expressing and feeling whatever, whether it's fear, joy, sadness, it's still a controlled environment. But if I'm in a meeting at work, well, now it's way more wicked of an environment, to use the term in thinking about chess. Chess is not a wicked game. Tennis is, because there's so many variables. So any meeting that I'm having in a group scenario, it's a wicked environment. And now, how do I translate the emotional expression into that space? So number one is always getting more in touch with my feelings: fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy. As I allow myself to feel the core feelings more, I will then allow myself to be more aware of the feelings that other people are having. So if I'm in a meeting and I'm allowing myself to feel anxiety that's happening because I'm around people or for whatever reason, then I can see where other people are sending signals that they're anxious, and I can start to relate to them. And I could look at, you know, the VP or president in the meeting. I can say, huh, I think they might be looking concerned. Huh. I suspect it's about this. I'm feeling anxious about this. Probably that too. We came into the meeting with this agenda. Okay, they're probably like concerned that we're not going to get through our agenda today. I could understand that because that hasn't happened in the past. There's been times where meetings have been unsuccessful in terms of coming out of them with a clear resolve. Okay, well, so how can I address that anxiety? How can how can I do something about that? So now I'm using the anxiety that I'm feeling. It has a purpose. And it's kind of cool that as soon as my anxiety has a purpose, it's no longer as I don't move to a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. I now move into action. And I'm using that fear response in a direction to get an outcome. So that's a way that you can use this in meetings at work. So any questions about this? If anything I just said like triggers a thought that you have about a meeting that you have coming up, maybe a one-to-one with your boss or manager, or a meeting that you have with a partner, um, or if you are an entrepreneur and you're working with a vendor or whoever, if you have a meeting coming up, what are the ways that having greater access to your fear, hurt, anger, sadness, and joy could be useful in that meeting? And so, as you're thinking about this, I'll share that one of the things that has come out in studies, this is Antonio Damasio, that show just how important the emotional center of our brain is in making decisions. Is that when there's tumors on the emotional center of the brain, and so people don't have access to their emotions, they can still get up, walk around, do stuff. They're functioning. But when there's a disconnect to the emotional center, they don't make decisions, or it takes them a long time to. So when asked, they had a questionnaire and they had a choice to use a blue or a black pen to fill out the questionnaire. Again, blue or black pen doesn't really make a difference in filling out a questionnaire. And it would take people 5 to 6 hours to decide whether they're going to use blue or black pen. Yee! So for everybody out there who finds themselves procrastinating, uh, one way to stop procrastinating in so many areas of your life is to get more in touch with your feelings. Because as you allow yourself to feel more fear, hurt, anger, sadness, joy, you will start to move on things more. You will take action. Oftentimes, procrastination, the function of procrastination is to avoid feeling something. It's like if I don't think I should feel a certain kind of way, and I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to handle those feelings or whatever, then I will just remain kind of stuck and not doing things. I'll just try to bury my head in the sand and not do something. So if I can understand that, oh my goodness, my procrastination has to do with just me avoiding being alive, well, then I can take steps to just allow myself to feel whatever I'm feeling. It doesn't mean that I'm going to take action yet, but I can start by allowing myself to be present with what I'm actually feeling. And this is where coaching or therapy or just talking to a friend and just saying, like, I'm scared about this, or oh, my feelings are hurt about this, I'm upset about this. That can be so useful because you're now allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling. And just that can then help you move into taking action to things that you want. So I have worked with a lot of engineers and people in IT who tend to be more on the analytical side of things. And so they're always wanting to get a lot of information. They're always, and it's important, but there becomes a point where a decision does need to be made. And so for an analyzer, when you get more in touch with your fear, hurt, anger, you will move quicker because then instead of um, waiting and then kind of proving that things don't work because you didn't take action, you can let yourself feel the hurt and the upset of, oh no, there's all these times in the past where I didn't take action soon enough. And the end result was painful. I didn't like it. Okay, you know what? Well, taking action right now might be a risk. It might not go perfectly, but you know what? If I don't do anything, I'm guaranteed to have the hurtful response that I've had in the past. So you know what? I'm going to move on it. Again, emotional intelligence as a leader, as you and by the way, leadership, the definition that I like to use for leadership is somebody who influences the thoughts, feelings, and actions of others. That's very inclusive. That's all of us. We all influence the thoughts, feelings, and actions of others, whether or not we even want to. We're influencing the thoughts, feelings, and actions of others. So if I'm more of an analyzer, allowing myself to feel what I feel will help me make decisions. I'm going to take a check here. I think I'm getting a question in here about okay, so we're getting some more sales questions. So in the pharmaceutical industry, again, if you can give me more specifics, that'll be helpful, but I will try to speak generally to this. So in sales, I think in any industry, one of a common problem is that there's big whales to catch, the big fish. And so if you're doing sales in a pharmaceutical environment and you want to get a big client, that's fine, but those usually take a long time. And so it's like you have to think of those as many sales calls. And you really develop the relationship. Because at the heart of all sales is relationship. And this has changed. We talked about this, I think, last 2 weeks ago. So the motto for sales used to be always be closing. Just close, 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 close. And that was true because there was an information gap. People selling stuff tended to have more information about the product than the consumer did. Well, the internet happened, and we all have access to a lot of information. So it no longer works to just drive for closing stuff. The relationship is the most important thing now, because people can do lots of research and come to their own conclusion about something and make their own purchase. But we're now moving into a time where there's so much information, and there's information that is totally bonkers, and there's information that's good. And I don't want to spend my time doing a lot of the research. So I look for more knowledgeable others, people who just understand their field better than I'm ever going to intend to. And then I can trust what they say to me. And if they say, yeah, George, do this, or pull the plug on this, or whatever, then I'll do it. And I will gladly even pay them to do that, because there are things I have to do as a business owner. I need to make decisions to keep things moving. And I don't have all the time in the world to really know what's going to be the best decision. So, again, at the heart of sales is relationships. I will take having a good relationship with somebody over making a quick sale any day. Because the quick sale, so many things can go wrong with it. So in pharmaceutical selling, again, I'm not totally sure where you're at with it, with how big of the contracts are that you're looking at. If you're doing lots of small things, great. Just streamline the process, make it easy. very often in sales, picking up the phone is the best thing to do. Because at this point, we have so many ways of emails, text messaging, social media, blah, 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 blah. And that serves a purpose. There's reason for that. However, decisions are really made in a conversation. Decisions are really made when a relationship, like as a byproduct of a relationship developing. And so understanding the needs of your clients or who you're selling to, understanding the needs of the companies, and understanding the needs of the people in there is really important. So I hope that that helps. And that's emotional intelligence, that it's the emotions are like the thing that help you understand yourself and help you understand others. Without that, um, you can spend a lot of energy and not have as much of an impact. I remember a client saying that, um, he would be doing presentations for thousands of people, and he was totally out of touch with his emotions. So he's just going through the data, just giving instructions. And he would be like, when he started learning about his emotions and learning that that's what helped connect to people, he said, yeah, he's like, I remember that like a lot of people when I would be talking, like just weren't really paying attention. And I would be like, geez, what's wrong with these people? They're not paying attention. And it was like, so I do a whole hour presentation for all these people, and then like most of them would have so many questions, and like we'd have to do a whole nother training. And he's like, I'm getting it now that I was out of touch with myself emotionally. And it was like impossible for these people to connect with me. Well, some of them were able to, but the majority of them, after 5 minutes, all they heard was rah, 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 rah. So, so as a leader, you're going to increase your impact with people the more in touch you are with your feelings. You'll be able to invite people on the journey with you in a way that you're unable to do if you're constantly shutting off your feelings. So I hope this is helpful. We're coming up on the hour here. I want to say again that you are welcome to type any questions into the comment section. I'll do my best to answer those. If you want to set up a time to meet one-to-one with me, I've got spots on my calendar. You can set that up. We'll talk for 15 to 20 minutes. And oftentimes I'm able to help people just in that time get clarity about their next steps in their career. And they're, grateful for it and can move on. Sometimes we look at it and it's, you want more coaching. I'm happy to talk with you too about that, looking at your needs, what services you need provided for you. I offer things like group coaching, one-to-one coaching, and I offer some online courses as well. And I've got a YouTube channel where this is streaming to right now, and where I post other content, educational things that I use with clients. You're welcome to check that out. I hope it serves you. I've got everything there from ASMR videos or hypnosis things. That's a helpful tool I've found over the years. You can use the videos for yourself in terms of deepening relaxation, deepening your connection to your emotions. And then there's also educational things there, things about emotional intelligence and leadership, things about different humanistic psychology terms that I explain, and things about psychology, human development, and existentialism. So I put little tidbits on there. Most people get some value out of that and can apply it to your life in a meaningful way. So take a look at that. And I will be signing off here. I've got a session coming up. But let me know before I go if there's any questions that you have about your career. Again, you don't have to ask questions about emotional intelligence and leadership. If you've got something else on your heart, I'm happy to respond to that. So let me know any questions that you have career related. I'm happy to talk about it. Again, you're welcome to type your questions into the comment section, and I'll take a look at those. If you type them in while I'm not broadcasting, I'll do my best to get back to you even out of this time. Okay. Well, everybody, thank you to those of you who joined in and to those of you who asked some questions. Appreciate that. Your questions serve everybody. There's a lot of people who have similar questions, and so just the process of talking it through helps others. Until next week, then, take care, everybody. Again, I'm your host, George Miller, available for one-to-one coaching, group leadership coaching, and my YouTube channel has resources that help you develop as a leader. All right, take care, everybody. Blessings.